All right. We haven't heard from Robin, so he'll be here or he won't be. Episode 255, fellas. Welcome to the show. What do you guys want to talk about?
I want to talk about Andy Naylor's incredibly accurate reporting. Can we do that?
We can. Of course we can.
Yeah, but when you come across someone that is just so incredibly good at their job, I just think it's worth calling it out when you see it. This was posted 18 hours ago by Andy Naylor for The Athletic.
And Romano, to be fair, which makes it funnier.
Roberto De Zerbi is adamant he's not looking for another job as discussions over his Brighton future continue. Adamant, so adamant that he's done. Well, how are we feeling about that?
About Andy Naylor or De Zerbi?
Yes,
but I think it's a bit of a shock, isn't it? No, like I don't think anyone was expecting it. The fact that we even got ahead of Romano and Naylor in the world that we live in right now means that it all feels very quick and very sudden, like a band-aid has been ripped off. So I wasn't expecting it, especially for it to drop on a Saturday morning or a Saturday afternoon. So yeah, it's pretty wild. Josh, what about yourself?
Yeah, it's my wife's birthday today, and she loves Roberto so much. So after a lovely day so far, yeah, she's had a lovely day. It gets to 3:30 or whatever it was in the afternoon, and the poor girl's just been told that Roberto's leaving as her first year as a season ticket holder. Absolutely loves the guy. Like, she loves the De Zerbi cam. She loves all of it, and now he's gone. So she's gone in the bedroom and is now like having a nap. So that's how it's gone for her.
Sleep it off. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It was a shock. Like I think we talked about this a few times. Like, is he, isn't he? Will he, won't he? Right? Like Mikey in the chat, more or less surprised than when we got the announcement Houghton was leaving.
This feels a bit more surprising in the context because you knew something had to change for an evolution from Houghton, whereas De Zerbi, after the dust had settled with everything, you felt this season it was like, well, we're at least going to do one more year of this and see what happens. So for this to occur is bizarre, and it's almost, I feel like we can blame West Ham for this. Because they were trying to get various managers, and then Lopetegui came to their attention. Bayern tried to get Lopetegui, turned him down. You can also blame Man U because in some capacity, because Ranić turned down Bayern. Then Lopetegui goes to West Ham. Bayern are now like, well, okay, what do we do? Do we keep Tuchel? Tuchel's then not being kept. It comes out 24 hours ago. And now all the rumors are that De Zerbi goes to Bayern. If he doesn't go to Bayern, the Juve job came up for grabs 24 hours ago as well. So this weird game of dominoes happened basically in the last 24 hours where these two jobs suddenly came up and you could have De Zerbi's name next to either one of them. The way the news was delivered today as well felt like it was done in a way in which it was claimed it was a mutual thing. You've got to imagine there's some kind of pissed off conversation that occurred with Tony Bloom as like, I have to go to, these are the jobs of my dreams or whatever it is. We're not going to find out what happened there for quite a while, I would imagine. But a bizarre ending for something that you just wouldn't have bet on 24 hours ago.
It just feels so sudden, like you said, right? And it feels like something has happened in order for these dominoes to fall or for these cogs to start turning. I think we're seeing sort of, for me, I do think it's less surprising than the whole Houghton sort of stuff as well, because we know how brazen and how loud the Zerbi is, and it seemed that they sort of mended fences like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but we knew that was bubbling under the surface. And, again, we always say we knew what we were signing up for when you appoint a manager like the Zerbi. So the fact that we got 2 seasons is probably good enough. But it's so weird for me, right? And we were sat here at the weekend talking about players we bring in to fit the system, to fit the manager and fit the philosophies in which we've been playing for the last 2 years. And suddenly you just throw that out the window because that's now gone. And sort of the type of players that we were maybe looking at in the summer, despite our detailed analysis and research and trying to find the right players, they now need to fit a completely different system that we currently don't know. So it feels, and I think that's where the shock comes from, right? Is that was the, I guess, the nucleus of how we play, and then you get the players to fit the philosophy. And now we're sort of not starting again, but we're taking a step back, and we need to start that sooner rather than later. And I think that's why it got sort of announced today, right?
I think we all thought that if he was going to go, we would get this announcement before the end of the season. I think we all said, like, looking at his past with Sassuolo, especially, like, he announced it before the Genoa game, which was his last one, and we thought it would happen. But it seemed to have been like a real U-turn in that vibe over the last week or two. Anyone who wants to come on the show today, you can drop a comment in Twitch, YouTube. If you'd like to come on, I can DM you a link. Like the Twitter post as well. I've sent out a couple of links already. We'll start getting some of you in if you click on it and don't get too nervous. We have loads of people want to come on these situations, and then when they get in, they kind of shit their pants. So no pressure, no worries. You can say whatever you want, swear as much as you want. This is an emotional time to be losing the manager at this point. So no holds barred on this one. Just come on in and chat with us about how you're feeling. But yeah, like, we thought, if he was going to go, we'd get told beforehand. Little bit like, Mikey says in the chat, at least the club lets us say goodbye this time, as opposed to the Houghton situation. But I think Eric in the chat as well, like, where's he going? Like, have we let him go for free? Have we on the side, like, had some kind of deal done with Bayern maybe? Like, because it seems like they're now desperate to get him because he was their number 1 17th choice all along manager.
Yes.
Like, what, like, where is he going? I wonder.
Yeah, he's the most attractive guy left at the Bayern bar at 1 a.m, isn't he? It's sort of like, he's going to clean up. It feels like the Bayern or the Juve thing, right? But didn't we announce it as mutual consent? Isn't that what it's come out as?
Technically, yeah.
No, it's never mutual consent, is it? Very rarely is it mutual consent. So I don't. It just feels so bizarre that this has just happened. I know you said he did this in the past or whatnot, but I thought we'd all sort of made peace with this season. I feel like maybe I'm just projecting here, but we'd all made peace. Like, this was a disappointing season all in all when you kind of sum it up. But let's be honest, we had the bad luck with the injuries. We did have the European adventure. We go again next year, and we're going to splash some cash. Let's see what De Zerbi can do with some funding behind him next year. And it feels like now, like, even that's gone. So we sort of had that disappointment of the high hopes of this season. It's like, okay, we make peace with that, but let's see what happens next year. And now that's gone as well. It's just really like the air's come out of the balloon, hasn't it? At least that's how I feel. It just feels, when I read it, when I saw the news, I wasn't stunned. I just felt kind of, that's just sort of disappointed. That's annoying. Like, of course, that's how it ends.
With a whimper, right? Like, two days before the final game of the season, right? And as I was saying to my missus, I was like, oh, but the manager's left, by the way, and he's leaving on Sunday, right? There's not even like a 2-week notice period that we're used to over here, right? So, like, it was just like, okay, by the way, yeah, he's gone in like 2 days, right? So it feels, and for me, that's why it feels so sharp, or like very sudden, in that it's like, okay, right, you could have had like a week or something. You could, bring out the flag in the North Stand again, right? Do something for him on the last day, because he's a great manager and he's done great things for us. But 2 days before, everyone's like, whoa, what the hell? Like, there's no real time to even digest that before we have our final game of the season, and then everyone goes on holiday for a couple of weeks. So that's why it just feels like it happened all of a sudden, right? I don't think this was planned for it to be 2 days before the final game. So I don't know what's happened. I'm not going to speculate, but we are where we are.
Yeah, you would assume that there's been some kind of final discussion held as to the positions these people take. Some of his quotes have been incredibly interesting, and it's hard to know based on like the translation, right? Like this idea around the human value stuff that he says is like very strange. It goes,
I found that weird.
Yeah, so in full, for anybody that hasn't read it by now, I'd be surprised if any of the 20 plus people in here haven't read everything so far. But just in case, Roberto said, I am very sad to be leaving Brighton, but I'm very proud of what my players and staff have achieved with the support of everyone at the club and our amazing fans in the past 2 seasons. We have agreed to end my time at Brighton so that the club and I can continue to work in the way that suits each of us best, following our own ideas and visions, as well as our work and human values. I have really enjoyed an intense and challenging 2 years in the Premier League, blah, 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 blah. What did you make of that? Like, because the rest of it's just like media bullshit speak. What did you make of that human values stuff? Like, do you feel like that's a lost in translation thing? Like, because to me, it seems like our own ideas and visions. It sounds like De Zerbi and Bloom almost knew what they were getting themselves into and both thought, I can fix him, and weren't able to. And this is like the final conversation they've had where it's like, okay, like we're not able to fix each other. Bloom isn't going to spend 150 million quid on 3 players I specifically want, and Roberto's not going to back down on wanting 4 players for 200 million. Like, there seems to have been a block there, right? Like, what did you make of that statement?
I certainly don't buy the idea that there's a kind of loss in translation, or is this some kind of like Italian phrasing. This would have been triple checked by a bunch of people before it got released. There's no mistake in there, right? And you would imagine with De Zerbi's mentality that there has to be, like, he can't outright say the reasons, but he wants to allude to those reasons. He clearly feels slighted. He clearly feels slighted by the club. And again, this has been, how long have we had these discussions now about that vibe? It's been since even really before January, but January felt like the nail in the coffin with the breakdown in some of the relationship.
Rome, the second one, right? Like post Rome.
Yeah, and then we had all the noise a few weeks back about lack of motivation and all this kind of stuff. And you can't imagine the Brighton hierarchy were particularly enamored with those comments. So I think he's probably, as we know with him, he's probably taken the emotional side of this as like, this is a slight to him as a human being. And that's probably where that kind of language comes from. Bloom probably sees this as a business transaction, right? As he's seen pretty much everything else. De Zerbi's been great. He's complained a lot this season, publicly and privately. Well, you're moaning about going on to these other clubs. Tell you what, go and do it then, mate. We'll get the next version of you in. If I had to guess, that's probably how it went down and why that language was used.
I think so, right? I think there might be an element of he feels like he's been lied to, maybe the whole sort of backing thing and being able to do things his way and challenge the status quo that maybe we have. Hey, Josh, to your point, yeah, it's like, okay, maybe we can find some middle ground between Tony Bloom and De Zerbi and really hit that point of where we can both push each other forward. I think that the general consensus is that De Zerbi wants to achieve, right? Go and spend more, finish higher, and do it as quickly as possible. And he's passionate about that. It does go against what we strive to be and in the long term or medium term of a sustainable club. And maybe he does feel that we're not moving fast enough and he's been lied to during that time, in which case, he's loud and outspoken and brazen, like we said. So he is going to try and fit that into the media PR like we've seen before. So like you said, not surprised, but deflated, right? And sort of, okay, that it is what it is. And now it's like, well, what on earth do we even do now, right? Like, where do we go? Who do we look at? What does the next few months even look like when we don't even have any football, right? So there is a preseason. Got to get someone else in quick. Again, Tony Bloom, business decision, give someone as much time as you can. It never stops.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question for our new guest on the show. Cody is coming on to have his say. Cody, what is next for the Albion? What does this summer look like?
I've been doing it. First of all, nice to see you guys. Thanks for having me. I've been reading everything same as you guys. I have no idea, like genuinely. I was in the same boat as you guys, where I thought we're done. De Zerbi's staying. If he doesn't stay, it'll be a little bit longer. Like there'll be sort of a lead up to it. Because there was I wrote in the chat earlier, like he said yesterday, I want to stay if there's a line vision for the future. And I'm going to meet with Bloom and see if there's a vision. That must have not gone well. So he's out. But I thought we'd sort of get more of that, where like it's going to ramp up and, sort of like we had 3-4 weeks ago, where it was like Brighton have identified McKenna, they've identified Amarim even, which was weird. And like, there's been people they've identified to replace him. I thought we'd get some of that if, he was going to leave. But with it so sudden, I have no idea. McKinnon seems like everyone's saying, but who knows?
Listen, I'm going to read, and thanks for that, Cody. It sounds like it feels like everyone's sort of in the same boat with this news. I want to read some quotes from Andy Naylor's piece yesterday, just because
endless agenda against Andy Naylor.
All right, Roberto De Zerbi insists he is not looking to leave Brighton and Hove Albion for another club as talks continue with owner chairman Tony Bloom over the head coach's future. The pair have met twice, with discussions ongoing to agree squad strengthening plans in the summer transfer window for next season. Goes on to say, of course, I'm not logged in, basically went to go on to say that he's not looking at another club. He's not looking to move to another big club. I don't have another club on my radar. I want to stay here. What that news of what occurred in the last 24 hours when it comes out is going to be very, very fascinating for us, because you have to imagine there was some fireworks to come out of this. The other thing, though, is people that we could potentially bring in. There's names, obviously classic. The names start to fly around as soon as the news comes out. The guy at Ipswich, the Nice manager who used to work under De Zerbi. Those are the names that are coming out.
Farioli, De Zerbi apparently suggested him.
But this is that's exactly the point I kind of want to make, which I'm interested in. Maybe Cody, on your take, is like, if he's suggesting a manager and we're listening to that, the club's listening to that, it can't have been that bad terms, because it'd be very easy to be like, fuck off, Roberto. We don't give a shit what you're talking about. We're going to go hire some other lad. So
yeah, I don't think he had a fight on the training pitch with Adam Lallana or anything like that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm in the same boat as you.
Do you think this may be why Lallana has bounced? Do you think that he knew this was coming and thought this is a good time to get out of here and go home? Because he's not lying, right? Like, he is away from his family. We know that. Like, we know he wants to go back. And like, if his kids are at a key age, like, all of this all makes sense. Like, I get it. But did you think this was like one of those things where he's like, yeah, I'm not doing this commute anymore. Like this, I don't know what's coming next. I'd rather go while the going's good. Same for Pascal Gross, right? Has he been making the moves to, like the noise again about leaving, which he's done several times, right? Like, we know he's homesick. We know he wants to go home. I don't think he ever expected to be so successful here. He's legitimately suffering from success in that, like, he doesn't want to leave, but he does. Like, I'm sure he probably saw this as a 3 or 4 year venture into England, not becoming like a literal legend at this football club. Like, so, like, and in general, like Pedro, Mitoma, Estepinian, Solly March, players who were transformed under Roberto De Zerbi. Like, Cody, what do you think this means for a lot of these players this summer? Do you think it's a case of, obviously sitting and waiting, or do you expect to see some knee-jerk reactions? We're a Premier League team now with very high-profile footballers, with very high-profile agents. What do you expect to see in the summer?
As weird as to say, I think we're very lucky some of these players are injured. Like, I think there'll be clubs not want to take a chance, or the players are like, I want to stay and sort of get back to my best here. We've seen that with players before. Can't think of any examples now, but to me, I know for sure that's going to be the case for Stupinian, right? Like, he's out until beginning of next season, at least. Mitoma is probably going to need a while to get back. March he's supposed to be back in February. That didn't happen, so I can't imagine him wanting to rush while he's still in the middle of sort of a complicated rehab. But besides that weird sort of quirk of our current situation, yeah, I could see a lot of players leaving. Like, we have been linked constantly, being Brighton. Players are linked away, even ones who seem to be successful, like Enciso. There were a couple weeks ago, it was like, oh, he's not feeling loved at Brighton. Reports from Paraguay saying that, and then other media saying he is and might be out anyway. So yeah, I think it's going to be really tough. The players you mentioned, I think we're lucky they're injured, but it wouldn't surprise me if some players leave.
a lot of these players, and I think this coming onto the Zerbi stuff, right? Is that how many of these players did he actually bring in, and how many did they actually work? Or you know, you start looking at the Ansu Fati and the Mo Dahoud sort of transfers, and you go, you know, there was a quote that De Zerbi didn't know who João Pedro was and stuff like that. So it's sort of like how involved was De Zerbi really in that process of bringing players in? And if he was, how effective was it? Because you are talking about the Solly marches that were, transformed over De Zerbi's sort of tenure as well. And by all means, he's making players better, and that's fantastic. But we're all talking about players who were already with us before De Zerbi's tenure. So it's very much, for me, it's less about the players, but I guess the manager that comes in and how we want to play football again, or the way and we want to play football and where people fit. Like Cody said, I think it's a blessing in disguise that some of these guys are injured and maybe not attracting the attention they would have previously. You know, Estepinian had an amazing season the season before, but this year has been quite patchy. I'm not concerned about him going anywhere anymore. So it's very much, okay, can we keep the stalwarts in this team and hire a manager that can get the best out of them? And that's probably what we're looking at right now.
I don't think players leave from this. Like you got to be in this day and age. Like if you left every time your manager moved on, I mean, you'd never stay at a club very long, would you? And I know he was this figure that was to his downfall in some ways, like bigger than the club. Right, you could argue it was the De Zerbi show for the last 2 years. Here's what he's done on the pitch. Here's what he said in the press conference. Here's the players he's been able to bring in. He managed to get Ansu Fati from Barcelona. That's all De Zerbi. We wouldn't have been able to do it without De Zerbi. But as you say, Craig, like the arguments that you would imagine would have happened behind closed doors would have been De Zerbi saying, "You didn't give me the squad depth I needed. Here are the players that I said, and look what's happened. We've fallen away." And they will have gone, "Well, we did sign X, Y, and Z for you, and they've been absolutely tragic." So it's a bit of a two-way street. It does feel a little bit questionable. Again, it's just this whole fact. This whole happened so quickly that you feel like this stuff would have been resolved up until this point. Like they would have had those discussions, they would have had those arguments and disagreements. It's like, okay, finally, where are we at? Let's just now talk about we need more players for the summer. We all know that. It doesn't take a genius. Anyone will say that we know that we need to bring in new blood to this team. So what's the argument been about? Like, did De Zerbi wanted 15 players and Tony Bloom's only going to give him 5? Like, it just seems it seems really childish. It seems like a sort of childish end potentially. And I hope it isn't that. I hope it was two guys sat down and shook hands and basically said, look, I think we've just got slightly different perspectives on this. I want to go and see what else is out there. I've loved my time at the club. And Tony's gone, we've loved having you, but yeah, sure, we'll next man up. But you've got to imagine that's not how it happened.
I actually think it probably is. I think we probably had the crybaby stuff weeks ago when it was clearly seen in the press that there was that kind of like the calling out the board, this, that, and the other. I wouldn't be surprised if yesterday, I expect it was either today or yesterday, given the fact that Fabrizio couldn't even get the dirty little hands on it. Like, it must have been very quick, like really, like even if it was this morning, right? Like, let's sleep on it and like come back and see if we changed our minds tomorrow, and it still hasn't. I think the last conversation was probably a good one. Like, they've already gone all out on like gushing niceness about him, like all over the website. I think if there was like some dodginess there, I'm not sure De Zerbi could even keep his mouth shut in one way or another, even if it leaked to Fabrizio or, you know, even Naylor or someone, you know, if this agent dropped it out and was like, here's why it didn't work out. Like,
breaking news. Andy Naylor's tweeted. Someone quoted his headline and story from yesterday saying this aged well. He's come back and said, not my fault if what I actually write gets misinterpreted. Words are chosen carefully for a reason. If you read the article, it's very much in line with the headline. So anyway, more as we get
maybe
it.
This is because I'm cynical, but I was not very confident that he was going to stay, even with all that. I didn't think it would be this quick. Like I said, I thought we'd sort of ramp up again once the season was over, and Bayern still didn't have a manager, and now there's all this stuff with Barcelona. So I think he's couching it saying, I'm not a Naylor defender, but I think he's couching it saying, because I said conversations were ongoing with Bloom, there was a chance this could happen. And like I said, was kind of in that same boat. I just didn't think it would be this quick.
The only point that is made, the only quote from De Zerbi that gives a saving grace to the headline is, or rather to Naylor's point, if you it's where he basically says, I would like, if I stay in Brighton, to reach every season the highest target we can. But with Tony, with Paul, the other part of the club, we argue, and I have to be grateful. I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. What do we do? What do you think we do next? Money right now, you got guns to your head, or your million quid if you pick right. Who are you picking for Brighton boss?
Cody, this is a great question for you. Who you got as your next guy in?
I know it's kind of cliche, but I feel like McKenna has to be it. I feel like kind of going back to the Potter model, as opposed to a manager who's going to be expecting a lot more. Because the name that was on just before I came on that everyone's talking about is the Nice manager. I think Farioli is how you pronounce it, the handpicked one.
Yep.
But he was linked to Ajax. I know Ajax aren't great now, but like it's a big club, quote unquote, and he's been working with Nice.
Didn't Potter just turn down Ajax? There'd be a weird again. God, the butterfly effect is strong with all this.
Yeah. But I feel like they might go with a safer choice. But again, I don't know much about Ipswich, so I don't know if McKenna actually is so committed he'll stay with them. But to me, he feels like a safer choice than the other options mentioned. And I could see the club going that way after all this.
All right, Sky Bet and Paddy Power have their odds out finally. They've literally dropped in the last 5 minutes. So I'll give you the ones that are under 10-1. Anything above that's like, all these bets are stupid anyway. They change so quick. I could put a 10.
Yeah, don't gamble or be gamble aware. Whatever we have to say to not get sued.
Yeah.
Gamble responsibly.
Yeah, I mean, I could put a $5 on Will Still, who's 16-1, and he'd drop to 6-1. Like, it's all a scam. Like, my next manager odds are a joke. But we're going to read them out anyway because we're degens. Kieran McKenna, favourite at 9-4. Farioli, the Nice fella that was about to sign on the dotted line at Ajax before he does a U-turn on the M25, if you remember that saga. Russell Martin as well. Vincent Kompany, 4th favourite. Graham Potter, 5th favourite.
Nah,
Liam Rosenia, 6th favourite. Kieran McKenna, Francesco Farioli, Russell Martin, Vincent Kompany, Graham Potter, and Liam Rosenia. Question to the floor. Are you happy with any of those names? Is there any of those names that stand out?
Not really. I do think like the McKenna thing is great, but he's in a bulletproof position. I don't think he leaves Ipswich, because even if they finish last on 10 points, he's still the one that got them up, and there's no real pressure for him. So I don't think McKenna leaves that ship just yet, especially after 2 promotions and stuff. He'll ride that out for a season. Liam Rosenia is probably the only one there that I think would be realistic, maybe, because again, Free did well at Hull. Bit weird that he got sacked. Ties with the club, like that's cool. Potter's a no. The Farioli stuff is brand new. I know nothing about him, so I'm not really going to comment on it. And there's who's the other one? I think there's somebody.
Russell Martin.
Russell Martin. There's Knudsen from Bodo Glimt, which I think is lingering from last time. Not sure how serious he is.
Yeah,
I think 2 years ago he was the main contender.
Yeah, Russell Martin's a shout if the Saints don't get promoted, maybe. But I think we barked up that tree before. I think just because he's from Brighton, I think that's the only real tie there. So it's all speculative, of course. I don't think there's really a lot out there at the moment. We talked quite in depth about the manager merry-go-round that was going to happen this summer and how saturated the market is, it seems. So I guess we'll see. Sorry?
Oh, I was making jokes. So we're getting Tuchel then?
Yeah.
I tell you what, even though you're joking, I would hate that. He plays such crap football. He's so boring.
Yeah.
That's all I could think about. I don't know how you pronounce it. Was it the Hull City coach? They fired him for being too defensive. I thought, man, I would not like to see that if he's too defensive for Hull.
I tell you what I do like about the names. And by the way, Alex Crook on TalkSport, and Alex Crook has been fairly good for Brighton News over recent years. Kieran McKenna to Brighton could accelerate quite quickly. Obviously, the word "could" there is doing a lot of heavy lifting, but interesting. The thing about most of those managers, Kieran McKenna, 38 years old, Vincent Kompany, 38 years old, Liam Rosenior, 39 years old, Farioli, 35, younger than me, is upsetting. Russell Martin, 38. There's an interesting shift here that, especially this club, right? I think it's very clear, and of course we'll go out now and we'll sign Hodgson or something. That we see these young, innovative managers as the right fit for this club nowadays, and I like that. I like that move away from us bringing in the tried and trusted, safe pair of hands. So I hope one of these younger guys does get the job and they bring a new, fresh flavor to enhance what we've done, an evolution from Potter to De Zerbi to whatever it is we play under this new manager.
Do you know who isn't on this list that I'm actually just about to go back through it to see if he's even anywhere? Because one of the first names that come to my head, and it's not even that I want him at all, but like I can't believe that no one's even brought him up. And he's not even on the list. Brendan Rodgers is on the list at 50-1. And this Solskjaer is on there at 40-1. Southgate 33-1.
Southgate, I genuinely, I think there's only one thing that would ever stop me being a fan.
Honestly, I'm not far behind you.
Him or Naylor, manager.
My season ticket would be permanently on the exchange next year. Like if it was Southgate, I would never attend under him. Rob Edwards, just relegated with Luton, plays great football. Young, has Premier League experience. Do I think we'll go for him? No, but I'm actually shocked that he's not on that list. Like he seems like exactly in the same mold. Like, but that also is to Cody's point. Like, would Kieran McKenna want to leave Ipswich after getting them up? Like, if he takes the Rob Edwards mold, right, and Ipswich say they're going to back him one either way, like they trust in his process and and like if we go down, we still want you to lead us. Like he's got a very safe job there. If he comes in here and absolutely shits the bed and is sacked by February, and we're 4th from bottom with the squad that should be nowhere near 4th from bottom, like his stock is tanked all the way down to nothing, right? Like Potter-esque, basically, like. In a slightly lower echelon because Chelsea have just destroyed him. Like what? Like does McKenna take that role? Like I'm surprised that Edwards isn't even on the conversation because like he fits that mold entirely as well. But yeah, I think that McKenna is a weird one because like on paper it seems like why wouldn't you? But when you look into it, like it depends on like whether he wants to see through the project, right? Like.
I'm terrified of Rob Edwards. Luton Town's XG numbers or underlying metrics are so crazy. Like worse than Sheffield United with all their problems and being Sheffield United. Maybe he's the reverse spot. Oh,
kebab shop owners playing for them for the most part. Like their best player's Ross Barkley.
I know, and they still did very well. Like they still way outperformed there. That's why I'm saying maybe he's like the reverse Potter. He just gets it done despite the numbers. I don't know, but that scares me.
Yeah, what would I don't want to put this into the universe, but you did say it. How would people feel about Potter genuinely? No one wants to
groveling back, right?
yeah, nobody wants that. I for me, it's way too soon. I don't think it would work in any way. I don't know. There's obviously, if there's still a good relationship, fantastic. I do think he's holding out for either Man United or England at this point. That and he's got 6 years worth of Chelsea salary still to receive. So I don't think he's really in any rush anyway. Personally, I don't think I'd like to see him back. I do think it's a little bit too soon, and those bridges were burnt, especially with the fans. But I wouldn't be too happy with that.
Have you heard like Aesop's fables and stuff? Like, have you heard the old tale fable of the scorpion and the frog?
Yeah.
This is the scorpion and the frog if we get Potter in. Like, he will stab us in the back again at some point to bounce. He's done it to Swansea. He did it to Ostersons, and he's done it to us. Like, we cannot be surprised when he bails in March in like a key point in time to go somewhere else. Like, he will do it again. It is his character. We've seen it. Like he will bounce at the first sign of a promotion to a higher level. Like it would be insane. Like I would never ever trust him. Like ever.
Fresh off the news that De Zerbi's just thrown his toys out the pram and is about to go take the Bayern job. But the point I'm making is I don't want to be a Potter defender because his football just got tiresome for large parts. But every manager, I'll say what I said about the goalkeepers the other week. There's 20 Premier League manager jobs. And there's only a few of those teams in the upper echelons, as we know, where you basically, a manager takes the job if they're offered it, for the most part. Now, there are exceptions, as we've seen with everyone rejecting Bayern Munich. But these are kind of typically like more tenured guys that are just like, you know what, I don't know if it's worth my time doing this. I've got plenty of money. I don't need this. But for the most part, they'll take the job. So I know we all hate Potter now, but he was always going to take the Chelsea job. I think most people in his position would have then taken that Chelsea job. Here's a pile of money, bring all your staff with you and just come and, coach this team and we'll spend £1 gazillion. It's why, like, when we're talking about the guy coming over from Ipswich or someone coming over from elsewhere or Company or Edwards from Luton, the teams that are going up and down or whatnot, for them, they'll still want to go to Brighton if they're offered the job. It's a better, more established team in the Premier League. We've got more money, and it's a better position for them. And would their fans judge them? Potentially, but I don't know. I wouldn't judge them for that. It's just a better opportunity.
Would you not, like, from like an emotional standpoint, I don't think I could ever, like, I would feel both dirty and so sympathetic to Ipswich, wouldn't you? If we went and took him now, like, it would feel like we have become the villain.
Are we taking him? It takes two to tango.
Well, of course, he has
to say yes.
Yeah, of course. But like, would you not feel bad for Ipswich? I would. I'd feel terrible for him. Like, even though he has obviously made the choice to bounce as well, like, I'd feel so sad for him, like, for Ipswich fans.
Well, he's done his job, hasn't he? Hasn't he done his job?
I don't know.
He's done more than they could have asked from him.
You would assume so, but it depends on what he wants from the next year or two, presumably with Ipswich before Tony Bloom knocks on his door in an hour.
Well, they sort of have their own sort of Tony Bloom situation going on right now. I think they got bought, by American owners and sort of a lot of investment, paying much more than they should have been in League One, which is why they were able to be so successful in the Championship. I mean, obviously that doesn't always translate. Burnley went through that a little bit, but yeah. I don't know. I think the only reason I wouldn't want him is not because I'd feel bad, but because I haven't watched that much of him. I know it sort of sounds like shiny new toy, but I do like the Nice manager, and he's already expected to go. So none of that emotional stuff there for you, Josh. And I think one of the comments said here, like, it's Misal, someone who's De Zerbi's principles he can build on. I know De Zerbi's pick. I wouldn't trust that if it was Roy Hodgson, but this guy worked under him, has lauded De Zerbi, says he builds his tactics around sort of what he learned with De Zerbi. And, I've seen a bit of Nice clips that have gone around. That would be my personal pick. I'm just not sure it's the one a club will go with right now.
It seems the general consensus in the chat, at least with possible new managers, is definitely not Southgate and definitely not Potter. So, like, at least we're all aligned on that general recommendation that we don't want them. AC Milan, obviously, without a manager. There's an AC Milan fan in the chat also talking about they would really quite like him in an AC Milan. Like, do you think it is Bayern for Roberto next, or do you think that he goes to AC Milan, Juve? Like, do you think we'd let him go for free? Like, because that seems like a really poor decision. Like, there must have been something really bad behind the scenes to essentially, like, just cut 30 million quid off to spite our face almost.
It is weird, isn't it? I think, we obviously protect ourselves with these release clauses and making sure that, we get the bang for our buck and everything like that. Like you said, it must have, because it seems so sudden and it seems like a mutual agreement has been met. It seems like a very reactive sort of action to take, and we've just ended up in this position, right? But I guess from a Tony Bloom and a Paul Barber perspective, it's like, if this isn't going to work, then we have to cut our losses, or we have to, do it now. Otherwise, it's just going to be too late. when it goes to where he's going, I mean, he's probably got the pick, right? I think you've got the Bayern job as well, because it's a mutual agreement and maybe money isn't involved in the equation. Like Barcelona don't have to trigger 8 other economic levers to get him in.
You know what's funny there though is they actually sort of can't afford to fire Xavi and his staff.
Incredible, like just limping through life 1 lever at a time. You've got obviously the Juve job. The Bologna coach is being pulled up in the chat. Thiago Motta has been offered the Juventus job.
Going to Juve, I think.
So,
that's been
he needs to hurry up. So AC Milan fits, but also I thought the Napoli job when it came up in February was probably good for him as well, like with the ties that he has. But looks like even that's been taken. So it's probably Milan or Bayern really. But that's on the assumption that he is lying through his teeth on the statement that he put out and saying that he doesn't know where he's going, or he doesn't really want to take something right now. Which is, for me, it's a lie.
I can't see it though. You know, you're probably right, but the one thing De Zerbi has shown throughout his entire time at Brighton and prior is a lot of integrity, and he might be an absolute maniac, mad as a bag of frogs, all of that stuff. But it doesn't seem to be a bad, like, it doesn't seem like he's going to screw anyone over. So I think he probably knew that getting out of the Brighton job would open up doors for him. But I don't think he necessarily, it wasn't like he had Bayern on line 2 and it was like, hey mate, if you get out of that, you'll fly over, mate. Come over here. I don't see that. He's going to have options now, but I don't think this was premeditated. I kind of, what Josh was talking about in this sort of idea that it was probably more on, Bloom looked at this situation and went, I don't like how this is working out. Our planning for next season and this summer doesn't look nice. This feels like it's a broken marriage. I want to get this gone now and get the new guy in, and I'm sick of it. And we'll take the hit on the money because this will be better for the club overall. That feels more like the likely scenario, because I mean, it could be very easy for Brighton to just say, all right, mate, you're just going to stay until the contract run. Do your thing. Right. This is what we're going to do in the summer. Like it or not, it doesn't matter.
I didn't even read the statement that closely about him needing to take a break. I was just like full on sort of emotional reading it, like he's gone. I honestly, until you said that, assumed that there was something agreed to where he's going to Bayern. They're just, the club just sort of letting Bayern and De Zerbi announce it on their own terms. But no, if he is taking a break for a while, I don't know. Maybe it's like a weird gardening leave where the club will get their money when someone gets them. I don't know.
Yeah, everyone would be lying if they knew what is going to happen next. No, we never know. We never know what is going to happen with this club, and it's very hard to predict the manager. It's invariably going to be one of the ones we don't expect. But it is, the game tomorrow is going to be a very bizarre atmosphere. In that, I don't think, maybe there's people. Please put it in the chat. But I don't think anyone's particularly angry at De Zerbi. Like, we're seeing some of the revisionist stuff already where people are coming out saying, well, actually, I kind of didn't like this and that. But no, I mean, he's been a hero for this club. Let's be completely honest. But it's sad. It's a sad end. And I think there'll be a little bit of anger, but not a hatred towards him. Like, it should be a warm reception, but also very sort of melancholic. Like, I don't know what to expect. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm interested. Like, I'll be down there tomorrow, obviously. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing what the hell's going to be going on. I was looking forward to going down there, like, and like thinking like optimistic for next season, like clap them all off, be ready to come back, first opening game at the Amex next year, and like with De Zerbi and the team and everything ready to go. And now we have no idea what we're going to be walking into in August. We have no idea where we'll be next May, and we have no idea what the starting 11 is remotely going to look like when we next convene for week 1 podcast, right? Like, we have no idea what's going to be going on. So, like, I think a lot of people are probably going to feel that way too. Like, it's like thankful, excited, nervous. Like I think I think that's going to make for a very strange atmosphere. Now, I think if we
I'm
go,
not excited. I don't think anyone's going to be excited, by the way. I don't think anyone's excited. I think we'll be excited
don't
when we
think-
get a manager and people can like do a Wikipedia deep dive and be like, oh, wow, look at this that he's done. But I'm not excited right now. There's no excitement. It's just like, oh, fuck, what are we going to do?
I think at the end of the day, I think we've got a plan. Like, I'm not too worried about what we're going to do. Like, we're not going to, like, I say we're not going to fuck it up, but like, Sammy Huppier does like exist. So, like, we might fuck it up.
Yeah,
like
we definitely might.
I mean, we're like, I said this before, and Robin like bit my head off for it. He gave me so much shit for it. But like, if we were to lose to Zerbi this like summer, like, we absolutely need to be looking down before we look up, because we are just like every other top six like team that isn't a top six side. We are one bad managerial appointment from a relegation fight. Doesn't mean I think we'll be relegated, but we are one bad managerial decision away from being in that bottom six scrap for a season. Like, that's just the way it is in this league. Like, that is the worry there, right? Like, that if we get this wrong, Frank de Boer, right? Like, everyone. It's funny for us because he's a joker in his palace, but like, everyone and their nan thought he was going to be a brilliant appointment. And look at that. Like, look at it. Everybody thought Gary O'Neill at Wolves, disaster. I had him as my relegated team. I think 2 or 3 of us had him as a relegated team.
Yeah.
They're doing great. Bournemouth, not far behind them. We had them right down there. Look at that managerial appointment. Superb. Like,
I'm a Rayo Vallecano fan. I knew he was going to be good. Just to say that. Go ahead, Craig.
But and the thing is, it doesn't even need to be a managerial appointment for you to be in that bottom six, right? You take Thomas Frank this year, for example, right? Great manager, but just a really bad season. So, like, you know, getting the managerial appointment right is so important. But even then, like, even if you get a great manager, but he doesn't fit, then you can still come into these really bad issues. So it's going to be interesting. I think similar to Adam, like, I'm not excited for this summer. I'm nervous, like, because there's a lot more riding on it now around the right people, the right personnel, everything like that, and getting it right. There's a lot more on the line now without having your manager solidified for a third season. So it's nervousness. It's like anxiousness more than anything else. But we'll see. I mean, again, it's just fresh news, right? I think we'll take a day to process it. Like, Josh, it'll be a weird atmosphere tomorrow, that's for sure. So you'll have to keep us posted on that. But I don't think anyone can. Again, yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing. You can start talking bad about the Zerbi and everything, but what he's done for this club over the last 2 years has to be admired. So there's no ill will towards him from my side either. Like I said, if it's not working, it's not working. Time to change.
Just to comment very quickly on the discussion around, would we feel bad for Ipswich? I've seen a tweet, dear Brighton, fuck off from Ipswich. So that's I guess their stance on it.
That's very,
it's
very
fair.
Well put.
Yeah, concise.
But you guys are all right about the Zerbi. He's so popular. I haven't seen anyone saying bad things about him. It's the other way. People flying off the handle against Bloom, saying, if he won't invest for De Zerbi, how are you going to convince someone else to sign up? I don't think it's that bad, but part of me is worried that I shouldn't say worried. I hope that this is about De Zerbi's ambition and not Bloom's. Like, if De Zerbi came in and said, I want you to sign Ansu Fati, I want you to spend 40 million on Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, I want you to spend 60 million on some Serie A midfielder I worked with when I was at Sassuolo. If he was asking stuff like that and more, yeah, okay. But if he's asking for not a lot and Tony Bloom says, stand pat, we had a bad year, then I'd be worried because, one bad summer, it's not just the coach like Craig was saying. You have one bad summer, you can slide down the table even further. So I hope it's not that. I don't think it is that, but that is the reaction I'm seeing other people saying.
I think with us now, it's been 18 months almost, I think, since Roberto came in, right? Like, it was not last October, but October feels like 2 and a bit years.
It was October of 2022.
So
first game against Liverpool?
18 months. I think it's
Queen
only right to put it to rest. Yeah, we're about to mourn another thing here, and that is Josh's campaign to have Manuel Locatelli move to.
I was going to bring this up. Yeah, how do you feel?
I think it's time to put that to rest. Viking burial, push him out to sea.
Well, hold
And,
on. If we get Farioli, does Locatelli gate come back? Because
if we get Farioli, I will revive him like Jesus at Easter, like without a single qualm. Like it's back in the works. Like we're on board. Anyone else, it's over. It's over, fellas. Like there's no, we put it to rest. We move on, and I just pick another victim to spread propaganda about until the next manager leaves.
The bedding in period was interesting, wasn't it, for De Zerbi? Because I'm looking back now. By the way, I still can't believe that it hasn't been 2 years. But Graham Potter was manager of this club 2 years ago. Graham Potter was manager of this club up until what? The Leicester game, so September of 2022. Time has gone quickly since then. I feel like it seems very bizarre. But were you 3-3 Liverpool first game? Lost to Spurs, lost to Brentford, 0-0 Forest, lost to Man City. And didn't get his first win until Chelsea against Potter, if you remember that. I think part of this comes down to that, what we talked about before. Bloomers doesn't want that blip again, despite the fact the amazing stuff that happened towards the end of that season, right? That turned those results around. He wants a guy in that we can build, probably wants transfer input, wants tactical input, wants to know the guy's style of play and the way he wants things set up before anything else happens with transfers. We've seen what De Zerbi was sort of made to do through this season, through lack of depth in the squad. We started to have to play at 3 at the back and 5 at the back and move away from his preferred tactical style. And it fell apart. I remember us talking about, oh God, please just play 4 at the back. Let's just please. And we just didn't have the people and he wouldn't do it. Like, I don't think we want that kind of thing to happen again. And it's all well and good of saying like, well, Bloom and Barber and Weir probably they already know the kind of manager we want. We want that kind of fluid football. That's all well and good, but they still play different tactics. There's still different setups. Like I think that's got to be a part of it. But I really don't think this was an amicable ending. And I'm very, very curious to how it plays out and the news that comes out around it. But yeah, it feels really crap. I know it's a really bad way of describing it, but it just feels crap that the news has happened now. But I don't know. Maybe they wanted the send off, or maybe they just had a massive blowout argument yesterday, and that was it.
I don't think it's been that bad. I really don't think that there's been that bad of a bust up. Like otherwise they'd have done what they did to Houghton and cut him off tomorrow afternoon.
That sound in the background is what the boardroom sounded like when they were talking.
I just don't think it was that bad. I really don't.
Well, I guess we'll find out at some point. How quickly do you think we'll move on a manager? How quickly do you think we'll get someone in?
By the time we get to our end of season podcast next weekend, we'll either have one or we will have a out and out favorite. I think, Craig.
Yeah, I think this happened quickly, and I think it happened quickly because other things are in motion, right? I don't think we'll be spending too long without a manager. Yeah, we like to do things early. Signing João Pedro before last season even finished, right? So like, there's those sort of things where clearly there's someone in mind, and that's already in motion. So I'd like to think that yeah, by the end of next week, you've got a number one candidate, and it's all but writing.
It's in the chat. Mithranda, if Roberto De Zerbi goes to Barca, I'm going to be mad at him. Why? Yeah, I'm pretty sure about 18 Premier League managers would take that job. I'm not going to. I wouldn't be mad if De Zerbi goes pretty much anywhere if it's one of those storied clubs, because good for him, man. He got us European football. We didn't love how it's ended. We would have loved to have had him for another season, but we all knew he was gonna go. Like, if he's gonna go and get one of those big jobs, man. Go and put yourself up there and see if you can do it. I wouldn't judge him for that. What I would judge him for is if we see him wind up at somewhere just absolutely bang average.
I think you're going to say Chelsea. Oh, I guess it is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that would. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine the implosion that would happen if that occurred?
No, I'm not even going to entertain the idea, frankly. Like, I don't have the mental capacity to deal with that.
No, it feels like an impossibility. But I'd be mad if he. You wouldn't be mad if he went and took an Italian job. Like, good for it. Go back to your any of that. I think that's broadly fine for me.
I will say Barcelona's the one that makes the least sense, though, out of the ones that he's been linked to, because they don't have any money. The spotlight's huge. He couldn't. I'm not saying he couldn't deal with the spotlight in Brighton, but he didn't handle it that well at times. And I can see him having a public spat with Joan Laporta one weekend, maybe less.
Oh, it would explode. It'd be horrendous.
Yeah,
but it's going to be the same at Bayern, though.
Yeah, I think there's probably about 4 jobs in football you don't turn down, maybe 5, and Barcelona's one of them.
I think he has all the talent and the footballing ability to have like one of these top jobs, right? But similar to what Josh is saying, like being a manager of Bayern or being a manager of Barcelona comes with the PR and the media stuff and everything like that we know that he's quite outspoken and just very speaks his own mind, right? You kind of have to be that linchpin and spout the nonsense that you need to spout in an industry like that. So that would be my literally the tiniest reservation for De Zerbi going to your AC Milans, your Juventuses, your Bayerns, is that you are a mouthpiece for the club, and we know that he likes to say what he wants to say. So I agree with you though, right? I don't begrudge him any move that gets him into the Champions League again, right? You take any sort of Champions League club at this point, you further on, as long as you go upwards and it's not a sideways move, you kind of don't feel like you're losing out. So all the power to him. I think as long as he finds something that clearly meets the values that he's talking about, then it'll be great. But we, as much as we want to linger on that, we have to figure out who the hell is taking us forward and who the hell is bringing players in the summer and how we're even going to play football in 3 months' time. That's where my head is at.
De Zerbi's now part of the history, isn't he? That's it. He's now history for this club, which is sad to say.
Honestly, controversial. I don't care where he goes. There's not a single club that can be named, including Chelsea or Palace, that will make me annoyed with him. I don't care, as long as he doesn't run his mouth about us after he's gone. As long as he doesn't do that, I don't care where he goes. As long as he doesn't come out afterwards and give a tell-all bullshit interview and talk his shit, then I don't care where he goes. All the very best to him. I will watch on with great interest to see how he does and hope for the best for him. But if he comes out and starts talking shit, then that will be it would taint his entire time here. If he comes out and does that, I hope he doesn't. But we've seen it with other managers with similar personalities to him. But it seems that he does have a slightly higher level of integrity than some of these guys that we've gone with from before. So I hope that that's it. Doesn't matter how it really ended behind the scenes, right? In those relationships when you clearly know one or the other was in the wrong, but they both just say it didn't work out. That's how I want it to stay forever. Let Fabrizio run his bullshit stories, whatever, just not from either of them. That's the only thing I think that could make me annoyed at him. As long as he doesn't do that, I don't care where he goes. I hope he does really well there. It would be interesting to see him go Bayern. They went for him before and the talks fell apart because he wanted to bring his whole team. Was that because they didn't want to pay the release clause and then pay for the team? Or is it that they just simply don't want to pay for all his backroom staff in the structure they already have? If they don't want to do that, that's not going to work because we know he's not going to go without them. So that's buying out the window. I don't know. It's going to be really
the staff are included in the exit.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah.
So he knows that they're sticking at a job. They're going to go with him. So
it was Maldera, Segara, Marca. I can't say all these names, man. They're all Italian. It's only Andrew Crofts and Jack Stern that are staying. Everyone else is gone.
Which is fine. That's
yeah. I know it's not really a Brighton story anymore, but where he goes is probably one of the most interesting stories in Europe right now. Because with his personality, I mentioned Barcelona. You guys said Bayern, the role of sort of the presidents and sort of the drama. but he's also a huge name in Italy. Like, even though he hasn't coached there in a while, he's pretty controversial because, you know, their whole defensive footballing culture and all that. There's, I don't know. Maybe I read too much like tactic stuff, but it seems like there's a big push in Italy to go to more De Zerbi style. So if he goes there at a big club and flops, like, yeah, it'd be I think a soap opera worth watching. I don't want that to happen, but yeah.
Even this week, like old man Capello was yelling at Clouds, wasn't he, about it? Like, he was like just fuming. Yeah. So, but I mean, likewise, right? Like, to finish the podcast on a Brighton note, like, am I wearing my blue and white coloured glasses, or is it fair to say that even though there is a lot of nervousness and anxiety around what comes next, and there is a lot of trepidation around if we get it wrong, we're fucked? Like, are we not one of the most attractive jobs to almost any manager outside of the top tier managers on the planet these days?
Easily, right? And you only have to see, you know, Palace appointing Glasner, right? Like a Europa League winning coach that is going to take a job that's not the top 6 of the Premier League. And to Adam's point before, and we keep saying, there's 20 jobs in the Premier League, and they seem to be all very well sought after. So you are going to have your pick. Like, you're not going to have your elite coaches that are going to take, you know, the really high jobs, but you start looking at any sort of up and coming manager, which again we've said that is very typical of us. And yeah, I'm just repeating what Adam said earlier, but like they're going to take the job, right? So it's very much, who are you going to find and who are you going to offer that job to? There's some really good managers out there, some really good coaches out there. It's just how quickly can you get them in, and does their ethos fit with ours? It's going to be interesting. Like I say, it's not exciting by any means. I think I'll be excited once all of that is done and dusted, and we know who's going to be at the helm, or the backroom staff and coaches, and how that's all going to work. But we've got to get it right.
I'm just a bit disappointed that it feels like we probably won't get Ansu Fati back again for next season now. It feels like that's probably gone away, which is, you know,
gutted.
Take a bit of a while to get over that one. But yeah, I mean, this is a top 10 Premier League job. And let's face it, maybe there's the PSG job is more attractive. That's the only club in France that would be more attractive to be a manager at. Maybe two of those jobs in Germany, 4 in Italy, 3 in Spain. So you're aiming for like a manager that has the potential to be a top 20 manager. That is what Chelsea thought they were getting in Graham Potter. That is what De Zerbi now is. De Zerbi's now considered a top 20 manager, or he's not going to be linked to these jobs. So we're now looking for an individual that has the potential to be a top 20 manager in world football.
Looks like McKenna is going to cost about £10 million if we want him. Contract until 2027.
Well, we've got an absolute boatload of money. That's the one thing at the moment that we've got a lot of, and injuries. Money and injuries.
Like, the problem with us being a destination is there aren't that many. I mean, I don't know if I'd go as far as you, Adam, to say we're above all those clubs, because I think the problem with us right now, even though we are a great place, is that there's so many good managers who are in solid positions. Like, Mata can go to Juventus. If he doesn't leave, he's at Bologna, which just qualified for the Champions League. Farioli's at Nice, which I think are a Europa League or Champions League club. Amorim turned down West Ham, who are going to be in the Europa League, I think, or Conference League. I don't know. He won the Portuguese league. He's not anywhere to go. And then there's all the guys in the Championship who, you know, they have emotional ties, and Championship clubs can pay all right too. So I don't know. We're definitely a good spot. I just don't see any of these prime candidates where like they're absolutely ready to jump ship to a club like Brighton right now.
I don't have too many worries. I mean, I think the guys you're describing there as well, they've basically just done their version in those countries of the Brighton job, and I don't mean that in an insulting way, right? Motta's done the Bologna job to get the Juve job, but there's always going to be some of these other guys that are available that are still very, very promising, and we're not going after the same people. Like Bayern, we're trying to get Ralf Rangnick. We're not trying to get Ralf Rangnick. We're trying to get like the person that is the right fit for this club, that plays clearly. Now the focus is on playing good, attractive football. I think the only thing that would be interesting here, though, is how much Bloom and Barber now focus on personality of the coach as the hire, because Graham Potter was malleable, would do what they say, no issues there, right? And got results for this club. Took this club to a new level. Now, De Zerbi took the club to the next level, but your hair was on fire. So I wonder whether they're going to play a teeny bit more safe. We'll try and bring in the English guy as opposed to De Zerbi's apprentice, who may be incredible and a higher ceiling, but he might be gone in 18 months after he's taken a dump on, David Weir's desk. But
I think whoever it is, I agree. Like, we're going to be looking at longevity, right? Like, we wanted it with Potter, and we kind of got it until he decided that he was lying. Like, it just bounced. Like, I think that's going to be the conversation had with a lot of these managers, whether they're English, foreign, or whatever, or Championship, Nice, whatever. I think that conversation will be a case of we want you to be here for 5 years. We want you to be here. If you sign a 5-year deal, we want you to be here for all 5 of them. That's our intention, to grow together as a club. That's the idea. De Zerbi has never been a long-term manager anywhere he's been. And unfortunately, we've now mirrored that issue. So that's becoming a bit of a typecast for him. He is now a 3-season manager at best, right? We've seen that happen to lots of managers. But I think whoever we talk to will have that going on. And I think it's going to be really tough for us to find someone that finds the right mix in terms of the amount of love Potter got from the board and the amount of love De Zerbi got from the fans. I hope we can find someone right there in the middle that has a personality that the fans love to love, because Potter didn't. He never did, right? He never had a song. He never had anybody. He never do you know what I mean? He never had that level of relationship with the fans. And even when he was supposed to be happy here and no one was coming after him, he still didn't seem anything much more than disdainful of fan opinion, right? I think it's really important.
History lesson
this time. Yeah, exactly. I think it's really important this time that we find someone that is malleable to the board, right? More so than De Zerbi is. But I think we need someone with a bit of charisma and personality that gets the fans going, right? Because Potter didn't do that, and that left it just wasn't great all the way through in that respect. So I hope that we can do both and find someone that can do both for the fans and the guys up top.
That's probably why Kieran McKenna is being mentioned a million times since the news broke. Because he feels like the balance there.
Well, supposedly at Manchester United, he was the defensive coach too. So I know we're attacking, but if that was his specialty, and I haven't watched that much of him, but
they chat. Farioli was a goalkeeping coach. It's more just about how
That's
they
true.
kind of what the vision is once they get in the big seat. But we'll see. Hopefully, it's a good thing. If not, David Moyes available, isn't he? So. It's always that option. I think we've probably talked this to death at this point. And everything we've said will now be out of date in about 24 hours when we bring in someone that no one is talking about. But yeah,
James Milner, new manager. That's the deal.
Maybe this is why Lallana quit.
That's what I just said.
Did you say that? Oh, I wasn't listening.
Unbelievable.
I wasn't listening to that bit. No, I was probably looking at a tweet or something. I'm sure it was great. But I'm now taking credit for that statement.
Unreal. Unbelievable. I don't think people who have listened to an hour and 9 minutes, they'll probably get to 40 and be we've taught this to death. So with that in mind, first of all, Cody, thank you so much for coming on and having your say. It's been great having someone come in and brighten up the place. Really nice having you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I listen all the time, so it was fun.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, man. Yeah, it's nice. A more pleasant visual experience than Robin as well. So thank you for joining us.
So I would say we'll be back tomorrow or Monday, after the United game. But I feel we'll probably not now. Like, I think we'll probably save this until next weekend. Where
How
we do,
irrelevant is this game tomorrow? How irrelevant is
Yeah,
the result?
it really
it's crazy that that's how it feels though. Like, I'm thinking, like, what's the, like?
We've
wanna
not
do
not
another
even
one,
mentioned the game in the week either. Like, the football is utterly irrelevant.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say we'll be back next weekend. We may end up doing. This is going to be my guesswork. I think we may end up going United end of season, new manager next weekend if we're quick, or end of season review next weekend, new manager the weekend after to finish off for the summer. We'll have 2 more. I don't know what order they're going to go in. Or if we really hang around on the manager, then maybe we'll be doing it when the Euros are on. I don't know. But I think that's where we'll be at. So we'll probably be back next weekend to talk through everything. For those of you going to the Amex, have a good one for the final trip for the year. I am so intrigued to see how the vibe is there tomorrow. So we shall see.
The last time you may ever see Roberto De Zerbi in the flesh. Enjoy.
Sounds very sinister, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's potentially true, though, isn't it?
All right. Have a good one, fellas. See you all next week.